Hi there, my name's Alana and I use my YouTube channel as a way to justify my addiction to high-end and luxury makeup. Now today I'm so excited to be sharing my thoughts with you on the brand new Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau Palette. Now, first of all, this color story, it is so pretty. When I saw it, I knew I had to add it to my collection. So in today's video, we are going to do 3 makeup looks. I'm wearing one of them now. One of the looks I wear to a wedding, one of them I wear to film videos in my room alone, and the other look I wore to a work event. So 3 very different scenarios. We're gonna see, can this palette do it all? We're gonna take a look at the swatches, and chat a little bit about the palette, the color story, all those kind of details, and share with you my final thoughts. So without any further ado, let's get into it. This palette retails for 72 Canadian dollars, so it is quite pricey. The first look I'm going to create with this palette is going to be a very soft, neutral look. I'm going to a work event this evening. It's a little bit of a cocktail party, but definitely a lot of my professional connections are going to be there, so I don't really want to delve into brighter, bold colors. But we're in luck because tomorrow I'm heading to a wedding. Using my Refer #1 brush, I'm going to go in with Paloma, which is this kind of matte cream shade. Ooh. Wow, that is a lot of kickback. I just like tapped and dabbed my brush in there. And here, I'm gonna bring this up because I want you to see just how much kickback we got. I hope that's coming up. Do you see that there? See how much kickback we got? I'm trying to make sure it doesn't all fall, but I hope you can see. And yeah, that was my first time putting the brush in this palette, so let's make sure to tab that off. Use the mirror the palette came with. Using my Wayne Goss 17, we're going to go in with Fleur. Fleur is a kind of like a matte dusty rose, and my Wayne Goss brush is one of my smaller crease brushes. Now again, we're getting a lot of kickback. Let me bring this to show you. So I literally just tapped that in there, and we got all of that. I hope it's coming up properly. So far, I'm definitely finding the mattes are easy to build, but they are not easy to blend. But I think this gives most of the shape of what I want. So I'm gonna go in with Metro. Which is a matte terracotta. And we're just going to keep that in the outer V. And I'm gonna go in with Isle, which is this light shimmery gold shade, and put that all over the lid. Oh wow, yeah, that is pigmented. So this is what I come to Anastasia Beverly Hills for. That is a pigmented gold. So I'm just grabbing a fluffy blending brush, and I'm just going to kind of blend that all in, make sure we have no harsh lines. We're gonna go in using the same brush with a little bit more Fleur to just rein in that yellow a little bit. I'm going to grab some eyeliner and mascara. Okay, so it is the next day for today's look with this beautiful palette. I really want to focus on wisteria. So I'm going to a friend's wedding, and I think I can create something soft, beautiful, romantic, and still kind of fun. So again, we're gonna start off with Paloma, the kind of bone shade, and we're just gonna use that as the base on our look. I do have MAC's Paint Pot in Painterly on my lid as our base. Still getting a ton of kickback. I'm gonna go back in with Fleur again, and this is to just kind of define out my shape, define the shape of the shadow. It's not really gonna be a big player in our look. I also like the idea of it adding just a little bit of warmth. Okay, I'm so excited to go in with this pop of purple. I'm using a Refer #1 brush. It is a flat, kind of fluffy shader brush. Still tons of kickback, but like, look at that. I'm so excited. I'm gonna tap it off a bit because easier to build in more. definitely a powdery shade, but I think this is gonna be so pretty for the wedding. So I'm just sticking this just on my lid. I think this looks very soft and pretty, but still kind of neutral, still kind of fun. Okay, I'm just gonna use a blending brush to just blend in that line, make sure it's not harsh. I'm not really going for a gradient like I usually go for, but at the same time, I just want it all to kind of work together. Okay, now the shade Lily, let's see, is that, okay, it's kind of, okay, I think we can do this. We're gonna put Lily on top, just with my finger. Okay, so this definitely softens out the purple. It's not really what I was going for, but I do like a little bit of shimmer, and I think this takes it from being almost like a very kind of like retro pop into more like a fairy princess in the forest kind of look, which I'm also okay with. But yeah, I thought Lily was gonna be a little bit more translucent, and that is not the case. But it's still very, very pretty with the pop on top of it. So yeah, I thought we'd have a little bit more of a purple look, but it's more like a purple kind of peeking through. I'm gonna go in with Fleur just to do my bottom lash. So let's pop on some mascara and eyeliner and we'll see how it all comes together. So this is the look that I've put together for my friend's wedding, and will I feel absolutely beautiful? I was definitely thinking that the purple was going to be a little bit more bold. I definitely did not intend to mute it down so much with the shimmer on top. I thought when I swatched it, it looked like it had a little bit more of a clear base, but it definitely has a little bit more neutral pigment in there. That being said, I do think that it softens up the purple and makes it a really pretty sort of neutral with a pop look, something very, very wedding appropriate. But I think tomorrow I'm gonna have to play around with the greens on this palette. I'm really itching to dig into those beautiful greens. So without any further ado, let's do my makeup again. Okay, so our final look that we're doing in this video, I mean, I know I won't play with the greens, but I don't know what direction we're gonna go with it, because honestly, like, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about this green and it's been getting me really inspired. In fact, I was so inspired that I actually washed a bunch of my brushes 2 days ago, just so I could have a whole bunch of clean brushes to kind of play with. So I wasn't like feeling limited by what brushes I had clean, and I need to clean the rest of these ones tonight. Okay, so let's start. Oh, by the way, fun fact about my makeup collection, I keep all of my brushes, or nearly all of my brushes, in a variety of cute little coffee mugs. And that's how I justify buying cute coffee mugs. Okay, so we are going to start with Rephr number 1, and we are going to, again, like always, we're gonna put Paloma, which is that bone colored shade right here, all over the lid, just as our base. I have MAC Paint Pot in Painterly already on my lids. I'm gonna take my Rephr brush 15 and go in with Liberty, which is a sort of matte olive green shade. Tap it off so that way we can build it up, and we're gonna use this to kind of sculpt in our shape. I'm also going to be taking this green shade and putting it under my eyes. I've swatched the 4 sort of shimmery green shades, and they're so different. So we have sort of the lightest one, we've got a pretty olive green, a bit of a duochrome, and a bit of a bronze. Okay, I'm really feeling Hope. It's sort of a golden olive green. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with my Rephr number 2 brush, which is a flat shader brush. We're gonna place this all over the lid. I'm going back in with the 15 brush that we've already used to just kind of blend that in. Then I'm going in with the Rephr 14 brush. I'm just gonna pop in Isle, which is sort of a very yellow gold, just on the inner crease, just to brighten that up a little bit. And the slightest little bit of that under the brow. Now I'm grabbing a clean blending brush, and I'm just going to just kind of diffuse everything. Okay, I'm gonna pop on some mascara and eyeliner and then I'll show you the final look. So we have the top row and then the bottom row from left to right, or from my left to right. You know what I mean. Top row and bottom row. At first glance, this eyeshadow palette contains 12 eyeshadows. However, 3 of the mattes are actually described as pressed pigments and are not intended for use in the immediate eye area. Now I gotta say, the idea of including pressed pigments in an eyeshadow palette drives me up the wall, okay? It drives me nuts because pressed pigments might make sense from an artistry perspective if you're going to be using your eyeshadow on your face, on your body, and really doing kind of creative work. But let's be real, the makeup sold at Sephora and other makeup stores, that is really intended for consumers. That is intended for people who are going to take one look at this and say, oh, very nice, that's an eyeshadow palette, and they're going to start putting it on their eyes because it's an eyeshadow palette, because it's marketed as an eyeshadow palette. And I really don't like the idea of pressed pigments. Now, look, the reality is I don't exactly follow the rules that they tell you to do, and I, as you saw, put them on my immediate eye area. And I know it's just to protect them, but it just drives me nuts. Like, if it's not safe for the eye area, it shouldn't be sold in an eyeshadow palette. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, each of the eyeshadows or pressed pigments contains 1.3 grams of product. So I will start with the pressed pigments. Those are Wisteria, Paloma, and Metro. So in other words, all of the matte eyeshadows except for Fleur and Liberty. The remaining 9 powders are considered eyeshadows and are eye safe. So I will describe them starting with Wings, and I'll move along the top row and then along the bottom row. Wings is a metallic silver green with sparkling reflect. Isle is a metallic blonde gold. Belle is a metallic antique bronze. Wisteria is a matte purple lavender with sparkling reflex. Lily is a metallic rose gold with multidimensional reflex. Hope is a metallic olive green with gold flecks. Paloma is a matte creamy ivory with sparkling reflex. Claire is a matte golden peach. Liberty is a matte muted hunter green. Peacock is a duochrome bluish green brown with pink reflex. Metro is a matte rich clay. Muse is a metallic dark chocolate brown. So this palette is marketed as an all-in-one palette for immediate effortless looks from on the go to ultra glam. We're gonna get in that when we analyze some of the looks that I put together. Further, the palette describes the Nouveau Palette's reinvented mattes and multi-dimensional metallics leave everything to your imagination, with amped up neutrals, perfect pops of color, and a fresh green story that feels ethereal. So let's get into that color story for a moment. So the color story really does lean on these absolutely beautiful greens. You see that in the packaging, and by the way, the packaging is sort of a textured canvas feel. It doesn't feel luxurious, but it also doesn't feel cheap. When you open the palette, you're greeted with a large mirror, and then your 9 eyeshadows and 3 pressed pigments. What I found really interesting as I was getting to know this palette and putting together looks for a work event, a wedding, and just general filming, which is the look I'm wearing right now, is that even though this palette is very green feeling, you're not stuck and limited by just creating green looks. I did create a number of beautiful sort of warm golden neutral looks, and it's interesting that in the marketing they use the word ethereal because that's what I felt about the first look I created. And that's what I feel about a lot of the shades, like Wings, Isle, Lily, those shades in particular, those feel very ethereal to me. Now that being said, there's a ton that you can do in the green space. And as I was putting together this green eyeshadow look, I really struggled because all of the greens actually look so pretty. And I'm not somebody who tends to reach for greens. So if you are somebody who wants a good variety in your palette, in a sense, I really feel like there are 2 palettes within this. There's a sort of half of the palette, and it's not that it's laid out in this way, but there's kind of half of the palette that is warm, golden, kind of midsummer night dream, ethereal, golden neutrals. And then there's almost this forest green side with a few shadows that don't quite fit in either category, but anyways, I really do feel like there are a lot of looks that you can create with this palette. So I don't really see myself getting bored with this palette. Now onto the formula. Well, I did find a fair bit of kickback with the mattes, which is fine. You know, it's not the end of the world. These shimmer shadows, like this is what Anastasia Beverly Hills is known for. These shimmers, they blended so well, they packed a punch, they were so multi-dimensional. I couldn't get over a particular aisle. It looks like just a basic kind of shimmery gold eyeshadow, like every palette has one, but it danced on my eyelids. It really just lit up my face. It was so pretty. Lily, it was a lot more pigmented than I thought it would be when I paired it on top of Wisteria. But again, just I got so many compliments when I was at that wedding. Just the shimmery eyeshadow, just so pretty. And then wearing Hope right now, I mean, nobody's seen me, but like I see me, and I don't think this video is going to do it justice. So if you look at the metallics in the palette, like 10 out of 10, incredible quality. But where I really have to give Anastasia the credit is on the color story. So I grew up on YouTube. I really feel like my makeup coming of age was right around the time that Anastasia Beverly Hills was at her peak. You know, I was coming of age when the Modern Renaissance palette, like just when Modern Ren was like the most innovative color story. Like this truly was the start of the kind of the warm neutral, you know, or kind of warmer tone eyeshadow looks. Then she followed up with Soft Glam, which might as well have been every makeup artist's wedding eyeshadow palette. Her original palettes were like in a velvet case, and that is just an invitation to get messy. So I'm glad that the palettes are a little bit more slimmer, and they're not velvet. It's just kind of like a textured sort of canvas. Now in her new palette, in the Nouveau palette, say that 5 times fast, there's less number of eyeshadows, but the pans are bigger. So I definitely appreciate having a little bit more of a curated palette. I think that's nice. I know some people don't care, but I definitely miss the brush that she used to include in her palette. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Are you planning on picking up this eyeshadow palette? Has it called you in? Have you already bought it? Do you love it? Is it not really your style? If you haven't already, please subscribe because here at Classy on the Run, we love talking about all things high-end makeup and beauty. Bye. Mwah.